I'm Craig DeRoche, the CEO of Family Policy Alliance. Big news. Last week, 16 states, through their attorneys general, the top law enforcement in the state, 16 of our states, filed a lawsuit trying to stop Letitia James. You've heard about that prosecutor, that rogue prosecutor in New York that is doing super constitutional stuff, folks. It didn't stop. She did not get the message from this election. 85% of the people now in America agree with family policy alliances. Even Gavin Newsom and Mayor Pete are starting to use our talking points. But she and others in these 16 states are trying to double down on these radical transgender policies with our kids in the K-12 school system. Talk about crazy. Talk about being out of step with things. There's a lot coming at these folks now, and that's what we're going to talk about. We have Joseph Kohm, the director of our public policy here at Family Policy. That's a big job, and it's getting bigger every day. Joseph is our leader on that. Joseph, it's a privilege to have you on this show.
My privilege to be on, Craig. Appreciate it. Great to be talking with you again about some, like you said, very hot topics these days. I mean, like you said, the message was not clear, or at least people did not get it. So looking forward to diving into what that looks like.
And so what does it look like? Let's start with this particular case, and then we're going to get into the so what and why it matters.
Yeah, well, I think the overarching theme of this episode, Craig, will be that the people should have gotten a pro-family message out of the last year, particularly the election of President Trump to his second term of office. They should have gotten the message that signals a pro-family move that the American people want in their policy. And they're not getting it. This has been this radical backlash of anti-family policy that is now mainstream on, I would say, the Democrat Party side of the aisle in American politics. And this case is the first example of it. So you have 16 states. The ringleader is, as you said, Letitia James, the Attorney General of the great state of New York, my home state. And they are suing to block President Trump's executive order titled Protecting Children from Chemical and Surgical Mutilation, which for our supporters, they will know that is the Help Not Harm executive order that we celebrated. Our Help Not Harm campaign's got 25 states to pass a version of a law we wrote protecting kids from procedures and drugs.
Let's pause there. Our audience is used to talking about what other people do, I think, for decades. It fell on us for whatever reason, our audience. We actually were the leaders in behavioral sports and Help Not Harm. We have federal trademarks on those campaigns, and we've been aggregating. We don't claim credit for any of that. Please, I didn't interrupt Joseph to claim credit for anything. A privilege of where God brought us and said, you're strong enough a decade ago to endure the fire bombings, the cancellation from banks, we have one of our, we're not going to talk about it today, one of our presidents incarcerated in New York. We're strong enough, but we're the leaders on this. We won at all levels of government, from the local level kitchen table. This is now the federal government taking our side. And they are saying, Joseph, I just want to be clear here. They're saying that there's a constitutional right to mutilate children that Congress cannot take away. That is what 16 attorneys general led with last week, right?
Yeah.
Or am I making that up?
Nope, that's correct, Craig. In fact, it's even one slight degree worse, is because of the nature of the way the executive order is written. What they're saying is they are entitled to your tax dollars to irreversibly mutilate children for phony science. Because the way the executive order works is it takes the same approach to solving this problem that we took through the Help Not Harm bill, which is a financial one, an economic one. It is a very lucrative practice to transition children, unfortunately. And so the way we wrote Help Not Harm was to turn that financial incentive on its head, make it more lucrative for you not to transition children if you're a healthcare entity or a doctor or whatever. And so the way the executive order works, the main thrust of it is if a healthcare entity is getting federal funding and they're performing these irreversible, barbaric procedures on children, giving them these drugs that irreversibly harm them, then they're supposed to lose their federal funding over it. So as you said, what the lawsuit is essentially saying is these healthcare entities that want to make money off mutilating our children for phony science, they are entitled to your tax dollars supporting those operations.
And folks, I'm going to get to this next, but we started at the criminal and we started at the ban, because to us, this is nonsense, right? I've talked to so many reporters for several years on this, and they don't report what I say, but I'll say them here. It's not that complicated. In the 80s, I went to school with people that took anabolic steroids to make the varsity team. But you want to put these drugs in your kids. Some people thought that was a horrible idea the first time they heard that. And some of us that were in recovery for addiction that thought alcohol might solve my problems when I was 13 years old would say, gosh, that's a horrible decision. So we started with trying to ban them and hold them accountable criminally for doing these things. But how many states actually protect these medicine men that come in with their snake oil and try to permanently disfigure our kids? How many states ban that now?
So the states that have adopted a version of health, not harm to protect these kids and ban these procedures on them is 25 at the time of recording. FPA's position, Craig, as you know, just for our audience sake, is we think every state and the federal government needs a health, not harm bill because these kids are vulnerable. I mean, imagine being a child and being unsure in the person who God made you as a man or a woman. I mean, just the incredible vulnerability that comes with that. Their parents are vulnerable too, generally speaking, because of just how horrifying that would be as a parent who you're the one who loves your child the most and they're struggling in this way. These are healthcare professionals they should be able to trust with this very serious issue with their kids that the kids can get healing from. And instead, like you said, they're selling them snake oil. There is no serious science at all showing any positive benefits to attempting to transition children who are gender dysphoric, whether it's puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, or the actual surgeries where they irreversibly chop up your body to try to appear like the opposite sex. Not a single bit of serious science shows any benefit to these kids for doing that at all, which is why it's such a grift. It's snake oil, like you said, Craig. There's nothing behind it. It's just a way to make money. And these states that are suing, these are mainstream Democrat Party leaders. Like Letitia James is not a backbencher. This is the state of New York, one of the flag standard bearers for the Democrat Party, saying this is our position. It used to be these were the radicals, the crazy people, because most of those 25 states had some Democrat support to the laws that passed to the votes that passed these laws. But now what these people are declaring is California, New York, all the mainstream Democrat Party leadership, this is our position. We must be able to mutilate these kids and make money from it, and we deserve your tax dollars to get it.
So this is where it gets amazing in the role that, we've been asked to play. And Joseph is one of the smartest legal minds I've ever encountered. And that's why he's on our team. He's brilliant. And with your support, we have the privilege of having people like Joseph, not just Joseph on our team, though. And Joseph would be the first to say this. We don't do our stuff ourselves. We have nearly 300 graduates that serve in state legislatures as incumbents right now. They have lawyers. They have central staff lawyers. They have legislative bill drafters. We work with social conservative organizations. We kind of are the trade association for the social conservative movement in America. So we put these issues out to hundreds of very well-funded, over $750 million at our SoCon conference of annual funding of these organizations, the best legal minds in America, folks. And it turns out everything that the left has been fighting for with this LGBTQ nonsense for the last 50 to 70 years is just as paper thin as we thought it was legally. We just had to have an organization like FPA that could help. And thank you guys for your support and all these other groups to coordinate and to make it available for us to have this success. We brought this to the Supreme Court. Now we have the ability, folks, this is why we're doing this talk today. We have the ability now to change a lot of things. We need you to listen. It is the time for you to get involved. Skrmetti changed things. Tell us why, Joseph.
Yeah, so Skrmetti said a lot of things. As you said, the Skrmetti is a case name from a case that if you follow FPA, all you have heard us celebrate in the last 2 months is a recent ruling in a case by the U.S. Supreme Court. The case name full name is United States versus Skrmetti. And what that case said, it was a case over 2 state health not harm laws. And it basically ruled what FPA believed way back when we wrote the original version of health not harm was always true. That states have a compelling interest in protecting their most vulnerable, including children struggling with gender dysphoria. And they can do that with a health not harm bill by prohibiting puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and then the actual procedures, surgeries, attempting to change someone's sex. So Supreme Court ruled states can do this. All 25 health not harm bills across the states now have the stamp of constitutional approval from the Supreme Court. So that's why I was even surprised just reading this suit brought by these attorney generals, Craig, because it seems to completely ignore what the court said in Skrmetti. Like as an attorney, I would be shocked making some of the arguments they did, having read Skrmetti the way I have, even if I didn't work for FBA, didn't feel the way I do in this issue. One of the things they said, for example, in the suit was that the Trump administration is guilty of relentlessly, cruelly, and unlawfully targeting transgender individuals, banishing them from the public square and, quote, denying their very existence. Now, the reason I find that to be a wild statement in light of Skrmetti is because one of the things that the Skrmetti ruling established was that it being a transgender person is not an immutable characteristic.
You just described 10 years of nonsense. That's what our audience, they don't, and you're brilliant in your lawyer, and you're doing, I'm not criticizing you, but stay here for a second. They have tried, go back to the garden, guys. You can be like God. Who said that? The good guys or the bad guys? And the good guys said, that was a false statement. There is a truth, right? They've been getting away with saying boys can become girls. And the media and the Chamber of Commerce and the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, everybody for about 60 years said, what harm can that do? In this ruling, the Supreme Court said, nonsense. Like, you can't be like God in the garden. A boy can't become a girl. That's over now, right? The Supreme Court has ruled people can't change genders. Our audience needs to know that.
Yeah, and the easiest way I think that might help our audience understand what that means is that basically what the court is saying is that being transgender, whatever that means, it is not the same as being either black or white or any other kind of race. It is not the same as being either a man or a woman, meaning an immutable characteristic is something you can't change about yourself. Like, you were born into being white or black or Hispanic or Asian. You didn't choose that. You can't change it. And under federal anti-discrimination law, you can't discriminate against someone for something they can't change about themselves.
So everybody's following and tracking with that. So now what I wanted everybody to hear, Joseph, is everything that you said. I wish that there was an organization. I wish there was some sanity. I wish that there was a platform that we could return to restore our great country above. It's just been given to us. And that's why we're shooting this podcast. Understand that everything they're saying has no basis in American constitutional law until a new Supreme Court overrides that precedent. And by the way, this is my commentary. When your leading advocates are the Ivy League, and a president of one of those Ivy League people writes handwritten apologies saying that it was all made up, it's probably going to be 250 years before anybody like that Ketanji Jackson is going to try to get a Supreme Court job on this transgender idea. So the issue's over, is what we're trying to say. But the Democrats and the liberals don't know it. And they're going to come at this even harder right now. And Joseph, this is what I wanted to start here on this show. They are so afraid they're incarcerating one of our state presidents for the last 3 weekends on this. They lost completely an entire section of law that they hoped they could bank on, making up a lie on. And they're hoping the media and the chambers of commerce and everybody doesn't get this. Folks, this is what we need your help with. This is when you chase them off the field. This is now when the U.S. Supreme Court has said what they're doing is harmful to your kids. And we need you to start reaching out to Family Policy Alliance and Christians Engaged. That's what this podcast is about. Because it has been established that if a teachers and doctors are telling your kid that either they can or their friends can get relief from this, that is the same thing as them trying to sell them, heroin and say, it'll make them feel better, or anything else, anabolic steroids. They're putting their pension at risk. They're putting their house at risk for civil liability. I hope they're all buying umbrella policies, but I need you to understand that that's going to change the behavior where you live faster than us getting a ban, because they go get a ban and a federal judge undoes the ban, and 11 years later you hear some nonsensical ruling. The rulings are all done. It's been documented, study after study, how damaging these are to your kids. And Joseph and I wanted to come on and let you know that we're winning for a change. We're not always have our back to the wall. This is the time where we need to go out and we need to start holding our school boards accountable and our cities accountable, because they have no basis. Their lawyers will start telling them that if they don't do it, the University of Pennsylvania and Harvard did, and collapse this, that they are going to lose everything they own and then some. Joseph, that's what we're celebrating here, is an opportunity for us to restore kind of American values here, aren't we?
Yes, 100%. I mean, we're celebrating that we have the initiative now. The Supreme Court has given that to us. Previously up to this point, help not harm, Skrmetti, all of it was playing defense. Well, now our vision has prevailed, and we have to carry that vision forward. So when you say, Craig, that people can go out and confidently stand for the truth in this and our other social conservative areas, they can do that. That the initiative is on you. It's our turn to press the attack. And I think a sign of how dramatically our vision is winning is how radical the mainstream Democrat Party, unfortunately, has become on family issues. It is now the dividing line in American political stance for whether you are pro-family or radically Marxist-like anti-family. That is the mainstream of the Democratic Party right now. And that's why I feel bad for a lot of what we used to call mainstream Democrats who just weren't part of these crazy fringe movements, but just kind of lean more towards that side and maybe regularly voted in those elections. They are not the mainstream anymore. Their views aren't being represented anymore, and that's sad. But it is a measure for our supporters of how much we are winning. Like when the other side's mainstream policy platforms is transgender surgeries for minors paid for by your tax dollars, or we must abolish the nuclear family. I mean, that is the express position of the mayoral candidate of New York City right now. When that's your mainstream, that's a measure of how much we have won and how much we have the initiative. So I would hope, as crazy as those policies sound, our audience would hear that's mainstream, but it is still crazy. And it's not changing anytime soon. So they need to go out and be the same vision that we carry.
And this is where the strength comes from, folks. You can Google this for yourself. Maybe we'll put the link up there for you, but it's a fact. I was blown away by, I didn't know that this was happening in America. I'm very grateful for President Trump's leadership on a number of things. There's some things I wanted to improve, like everybody, but on the strength of this, the mainstream media desperately wanted him to kowtow to wokeness. They've tried for 8 years of his political career going into, his 2024 election, and he kept on doubling down on this issue to the point where they thought that they could, with Kamala Harris in 60 Minutes, they could engineer and eke out this lie and they had the Republican in the Chamber of Commerce, and everybody on their side, and he just called them out on it and did something so powerful that they still haven't figured it out. They thought that 55% of Republicans supported same-sex marriage, Joseph. and they put that out. That's who we are as a party. And you need to keep going more and more into this stuff if you want to have a future. And we haven't won the majority as a Republican Party since I was like 13 years old. I am 14 Reagan, because we can't connect with Americans. Trump says I'm going back to social conservatism clearly in 24. The exit polls blew the left away because not only did he win the Electoral College, which they were afraid of, he won the majority back, is now socially conservative. Guess what? They never left. We just needed a social conservative candidate. And the people that made that majority, 41% of them supported same-sex marriage. So what the transformation of the parties, Joseph, wasn't what they think. It wasn't over economic issues and borders. It was over the FPA issue. Social conservatives, the Democratic Party, said exactly what you're saying, nonsense, at really like a 78%. The Democratic Party, I would fare very well in a Democratic presidential nominating contest if I ran on FPA issues. And I think that's why Gavin Newsom and Pete Buttigieg are trying to run on our issues right now. And what we're trying to get across to our audience is now is the time for you to get involved. Joseph, tell them how they can get involved with their family policy councils. You work with the policy directors, and there's opportunities for people to do this in the states, aren't there, right now, if they sign up?
Yes, huge opportunities. Even if your state is one of the 25 that has passed the Help Not Harm bill, the Help Not Harm vision that kids should get the help they deserve if they're struggling with gender dysphoria needs to be carried forward into every other aspect of your law in your state. So just because you have one of these laws doesn't mean you don't have work to do. And as you said, Craig, the main vehicle that we are blessed to get to work with and be kind of a trade association for to accomplish this is our State Family Policy Council network. We call them FPCs for short. They're all available on our website if people want to visit it. It's just fpaf.com/allies or under the Allies tab on our homepage. But they are basically, there's one in almost every state. I think we're up to about 40-ish right now. And I would just encourage folks, if you care about this, do you want to carry the social conservative Help Not Harm vision forward, into your law, you want to get involved at the state and local level to change your community positively with this initiative that Craig and I have talked about, we would just really encourage you to connect with them. They are eager to hear from you. They are working their states. They do our work, our issue area specifically in their state. So I live here in Virginia, for example. We have Virginia Family Foundation led by the amazing Victoria Cobb, one of my heroes. They do this because they believe in their state specifically. They do it for you because they know you support them when you know about them. So they are eager to hear from you. They want to hear how you want to help, how you can inform and support what they do. So please go to our website, familypolicyalliance.com/allies. Reach out to them. I promise you, they're waiting eagerly to receive your messages, your phone calls. They're ready for you to help, and they're ready to equip you to turn around and make the difference yourself in your locations.
And they're making it easy, folks. And this is God's work, hands and feet. I'm not saying that cynically. Adults have always tried to prey on kids, unfortunately. I was subjected to that as a child. I paid a very large price for it. I'm very grateful to our God for lifting me out of that. I think we all have a price to pay. I'm not trying to be full of pity right now. I'm just saying this is very important work. This is where you change one by one the lives of kids by getting the parents away from sexualizing these kids. Is bad enough they can still see pornography. We're working on that too, Joseph. But folks, this is your opportunity. We're asking for you to take the field with us. We remain under assault on all fronts. Letitia James, as one of our presidents incarcerated, is we're talking to you about Vanderplatz in Iowa is preparing for the primary there. Virginia and New Jersey are preparing for governor races. You want to check those out. We're at the front lines of that. We are going to be sending invitations to a DC tour in October, and also America Reads the Bible, which we will be leading for so many Christian organizations. We're hosting, not leading. I apologize for that, Joseph. In April at the Museum of the Bible. Please continue to check out that. We would love to see you in person at our events, but please get involved with your FPC locally on pushing this transgender ideology out of the schools. This is our season. This fall, we can remove it everywhere. We do not have to wait for your governor and your state legislature. You can win now. Please join us.
I was just going to say it's going to be a main issue in those elections you mentioned, Craig. I can't help but mention this just because I do live in Virginia and people here are talking about it. You know, Abigail Spanberg is a Democratic candidate. I mean, just over the weekend, she would not answer the question of whether boys should be allowed in girls' locker rooms, changing areas, private spaces. I mean, that is the Democrat candidate for office, folks. This is a mainstream player trying to win one of the most important states in the union. I'm not trying to overstep that. Virginia has always been looked upon as the next door neighbor of DC. From Virginia, you can go anywhere. So just know these are front and center issue areas. And like Craig said, your state family policy councils are there to give you the pro-family viewpoint of these important races and help you make your voice heard for the good of it. So thank you for listening to us and for being a part of this conversation and this movement.
You got it. Thanks for being on, Joseph.